like hours, they spend and shrink. Memories blur faster than you think. A moment's forever, the next.
A couple of months ago, I had made this little piece here. This is the Mable Meadow vest by Nippy the Label. It comes in a two-part pattern where you can make either the vest or you can make a cardigan. Same pattern, one purchase. Well, I guess two different patterns, one purchase, bang for your buck kind of deal. I had made this in a very lightweight, soft and fluffy cotton. And I have never reached for it because after I finished it, I just wasn't in love with it. I felt like the yarn I had used didn't really have a lot of good stitch definition and it just wasn't looking the way I wanted it to. But then I made the video and I was looking back at the footage and I was like, wait, this is actually kind of cute. Maybe I should reach for this. So I think I might actually start wearing it as we get into even more warmer temperatures because it is very cute, actually. I did an adjustment on the pattern where I did this I-cord edge. This is supposed to be a button band because I really wanted the tie, which I also really like. I ran out of the little butter colored yarn here, and I ended up using a different yarn in this yellow to do all the accents, and then I ended up having to do it on the ribbing because I ran out. Um, but ultimately, at the time, this wasn't something I was in love with, and it wasn't until editing that video where I'm like, wait, this is actually really cute. Maybe I should actually start wearing this. But prior to that, I had made the decision that I'm going to make the cardigan anyway now because I really just want it and I know I'll definitely reach for it. And I went ahead and purchased the yarn. So the yarn that I have is the recommended yarn from the creator, and it is Drops Nord and Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk. I have never used any Drops yarn. So this is something I'm very excited to try. I have heard very mixed reviews, but a lot of people use it. So it's got to be good for someone. It might not be good for me. One thing I really liked about it was that it is a pretty affordable yarn. I believe a ball of the wool was about like $3.50, and then the alpaca was I think like $4 each. So ultimately, the amount I bought plus shipping ended up coming out to about $70. I'll put the math somewhere. Part of the reason it was more expensive is because I did end up buying some very cute buttons to go for because I am going to do the button band on it this time. These are a pink mother of pearl little flower button. Very, very cute. So yeah, I'm very excited to start that. One of the issues I had with this piece though that I made, when I had made this, I was using a technique called the Norwegian purl. The way the Norwegian purl works is instead of doing your normal, I'm an English knitter, whatever. I use my right hand to throw the yarn. I think it's English style. The other one's continental. I think continental is when you use your left hand. I don't remember. I use my right hand, whatever that one's called. But purling using this style is just really uncomfortable for me because instead of just using a little flick of my finger like I would in a knit stitch, I have to like move my whole wrist and my arm, and it just gets very tiring. In a piece like this, because it is worked front to back or worked back and forth, not in the round, I do have to do a lot of purling, especially on the back. So I was using the Norwegian purl, and what you do with that is you end up twisting the yarn to bring your needle to a position similar to where you would if you were doing a knit stitch. So what that does is it stretches the stitch. What I want to do, and I think will counteract that, is using a smaller needle on my purl side. So before I even start this project, I need to do a couple gauge swatches, which I need to do anyway, to see if I can hit gauge doing knit one side, purl on the other using the Norwegian purl method. That is enough talking. I'll make it make sense. I'll show it all. let's get to it. So I did want to show the wrong side of my finished one that I had made. As you can see here, this is my wrong side, so where I purled, and I did, like I said, that Norwegian purl. And there are just some very noticeable gaps from when I purl because it stretches out the stitch. You can also see it on the right side, but you can see how like this row here is a lot tighter than this row. So I wanted to test my gauge and see if that would be fixed. All right, so the pattern calls for a 5 millimeter for the pattern, but since I'm going to be trying to use a smaller needle, I have a 4.5 millimeter here as my wrong side needle for what I'm doing pearls. So we're going to start here. I need to do my gauge swatch. So the gauge swatch recommends that I use the lacework pattern on one of the charts. So I wrote out that chart to make sure I can do it. Since I usually use my phone for my pattern, like when I'm using patterns and charts in particular, but I'm using my phone to record right now. So we're gonna do it this way. That might actually be fine already, but we'll do the lace pattern to be safe. That looks pretty good already. Like I can't even deny it. Like, oh, those stitches look so much more even. Good to know. Good to know. This could have been the thing the whole time. So I finished the gauge swatch. I don't really understand her swatch measurements because it says it wants the swatch should be like 19 by 23, I believe, using the chart. But this chart, the actual lace part of it, that is what it called for. It specified the lace chart in chart C. Chart C lace is 11 stitches, well, 10 stitches wide. I guess I maybe could have made it work if I did something else. I don't know. But I think I'll be okay because I did roughly half of that and it's 2 inches. I read it wrong initially, so I didn't cast it on the way I probably should have. But either way, I think it'll be fine. So before blocking, it's about 2 inches. So after blocking, it will definitely stretch and bloom a little bit more. So I think I'm just going to go with this. I think it'll be fine. I trust myself to make something that will fit. The yarn, I'm not mad at actually. It's very soft. So far, I like the stitch definition. I think the pattern is coming out pretty nicely on it. As far as the needles, using a smaller one for my wrong side or my pearls, I think that the stitches are a lot more even, actually. There's a couple rows where maybe I can make it a little less, I don't know. I think it's fine. I think you can tell on the back the best, where if there's like not that many gaps between the bumps of the pearl, um, Yeah, I think it's a lot better. Could it be better, even more better? Yeah, probably. I could probably go down from a 4.5 on my wrong side to a 4 millimeter. I think I am stretching it that much, but I don't want to because I still have to do some knit stitches on the wrong side. Um, so I'm going to stick with the 4.5, and I think it will be fine. And then once I block it, I think it will more or less fix whatever issues I might have as far as the minimal gaps between. So I am very happy with that and very excited to officially cast on this project now. I have been trying to record this update for about 3 days, but every time I think to, I'm either disgustingly sweaty because it's been so hot and humid here, or I have eaten something that spilled like all over myself because this is a shelf for collecting sauce. So I just have not been able to. But here is an update since Monday. It's now Saturday. Monday, when I last recorded, I showed, maybe it was Sunday, I don't remember anymore. The last time I recorded, I showed that I had finished making the right front right before I started the left front. So then I started the left front, and then once you finish that side, you start connecting them to work back and forth all in one piece. So this is so beautiful. I can't get over just how beautiful this is. Let me show the back. Obviously, I am nowhere near done yet, but it's so pretty. I looked at it in the mirror and I am just over the moon with how gorgeous this is. Obviously, I still have loose ends. When I make something out of wool, I don't like to weave my ends in until after I block it. So these are going to be sitting there. It is what it is. Um, but the pattern, I believe, says to keep working in pattern until about 22.5 centimeters. Well, last I measured it, I think I was at about 8 centimeters. So I've got quite a ways to go still, but I'll get it to 22 centimeters and I'll see how long it is, see if I like it. I still feel like it's going to be a little short, but the thing is that's really nice is that this is a lace work. So there is a lot of stretch in it. Like when I had first put this on, after I did like a couple of rows after I joined to go back and forth, it was like really tight in the underarm area. But because there's been some weight pulling it down for the past few days as I'm working back and forth on it, it is stretching just naturally because of the weight. So this used to be a lot tighter here, but now it is a lot more open. This process I know is going to take me a while. I worked on it for quite a bit over the past few days, but not as much as I'd like. And yeah, it's going to take me a while. It's back and forth. I have made a few mistakes here and there. I actually have. I'll show one because I actually think it's a really fun mistake that I made. When I find it again, I think it's on this one. Yeah, here it is. So on the back panel, when I was working it, I didn't notice it until I was on my way back on the front the time around. So this is supposed to be a pointelle 4-point pattern, little diamond. Up here, I made a little mistake and I accidentally made basically the same row twice, and it looks like a little flower. And I actually really like that, so I decided to keep it. Plus, it's a handmade garment. It's not supposed to be perfect, and I'm fine with that. So little mistakes here and there. There were a couple I had. There was one I had to completely rip out a portion and redo, and that was when I had started the left front. I messed up my first cable, and it was going the wrong direction. So I had to fix that. So I ended up having to rip out quite a chunk because at first I was like, I'll just ignore it. But then as I did the next cables to it, I wanted to see how it would like flow. The flow just didn't look good. So I decided to undo it and redo it. And in the end, I like it a lot. But all in all, if that's all I've done for mistakes, I'm very happy. It fits, it is beautiful. I have a lot of work to do. So I will be getting back into this and I will check in when I hit the recommended length and I will go from there to see if I have enough yarn to make it a little bit longer. Sorry in advance for the audio, my mic is downstairs, but here it is so far. I have finished all the repeats for the body, so it is at a pretty good length. There is a lot of stretch that's going to come from the blocking, so I'm not worried about the length at all. So now I'm going to pop this back on the needles and do the ribbing real quick. So I got about, I think like 13 rows of ribbing to do, so that'll be super fun, but so pretty so far. I love it. I love it so much. Okay. So here is the main body. I finished off the ribbing and bound off last night. The bind off is the Italian bind off, so it does take a while. It did take me a couple of hours to do, just because that's the nature of that bind off, but the finished edge is definitely worth it. It's very pretty, it's very stretchy. I'm in love with this so far. So as per the pattern, the next step, which I thought was going to be the sleeves, she has it written to where you do the neckline, which I'm very excited for because anyone who's ever made a cardigan before where you do the entire neckline before or after the sleeves, you're flipping it back and forth. The sleeves are slapping everywhere, they're flying everywhere, they're just in the way. So, very excited to do the neckline first. Never even thought of that. This is why we do other people's patterns. Get inspiration when you make your own one day, if that's what you want to do. So, along with that, the construction of the neckline is pretty interesting to me. So I have only made cardigans where you do the neckline all in one giant go. So you pick up, go all the way around, and you do it all in one. But she has it to where it is broken up into 3 sections. So the first section, you're going to do one side of the button band for one front, and then the second side for the other front, and then you're going to pick up for the neckline. So it's 3 different sections, which I feel makes it a lot less of a daunting task because you don't have like 150, 200 stitches on your needles just doing rib going back and forth. Instead, you have, a couple dozen, however many, I don't know. I didn't look at the stitch counts yet. I haven't started that, as you can see, but it makes it less daunting. So I am excited for that. Another thing that I'm excited for is I was looking on Ravelry and other people's finished projects because I was looking for inspiration on this. And one creator, who I will credit right here, when they did their neckline, instead of doing the typical 1x1 rib, they did a double knit. And I fell in love with how that looked. So I have decided I'm going to do that as well. So thank you so much to that creator. Beautiful work, looks wonderful. So they did leave notes in their description on how they did it. So there's a set number of stitches that you're supposed to pick up for your neckline. They doubled it and just did double knit going back and forth. And then I imagine they bound off using the Italian bind off, which is what I planned on doing. So Gonna do that. I think it looks really good. It makes a nice polished look. Plus, the double knit makes it look like the collar is folded over, which I really like that look just as a whole. So excited for that. So I will check in probably after I finish the ribbing, button band, all of that fun stuff. I've obviously got a few extra strings since you last saw me, but I also have a completed button band and collar. We are going to ignore the fact that I realized halfway through the second bind off that I had that I was doing the Italian bind off incorrectly. So the bind off is done incorrectly on the hem of the actual sweater and on both of the button bands, but it is done correctly on the collar. It is what it is. And I did it wrong for 3 of the 4 bind offs I've had to do, but I know how to do it correctly going forward. It felt wrong. I didn't check it. I didn't want it to be different on these 2 in particular. So I figured I'll just do it wrong for both of these, and then I did it correctly on this. I did do the double knit like I wanted to, and I'm very, very happy with it. So I have not read the next step of the pattern. I assume it's doing the sleeves. I don't think I should add the buttons until after I block it because this is definitely going to stretch. So won't be doing that. But anyway, this is adorable. I love this so much. It fits perfectly. I'd love to show it closed, but I'd hit the mic, so I won't. But here is the back so far. I think the collar is laying very nicely. I'm not the biggest fan of how the buttonholes look, but that could just be a skill issue in that I'm not very good at buttonholes. I've only done buttons like once before. I don't typically, I guess twice before. I don't know. I haven't found a method that I like for making buttonholes. So I want to maybe experiment a bit more. This was different. We did bind off 3 stitches for the hole. And then on the next row, you do a cable cast on to create the new 3 stitches that you're doing. But it just kind of created a bit of a gap right here. Like this is the buttonhole, and then here's the gap from the stitch I didn't bind off. I don't know. I don't really like it. Let me know like what other buttonhole methods you use because I'm on the hunt. The next thing I want to talk about is the actual double knit because this is the only modification I've done to the pattern so far. So let me get you closer and show you that. So as per the person on Ravelry who did this, I took her advice and I was casting on double. To cast on double, what I did, and I don't know if this is the correct way, but this is how I did it and it worked out for me. When you look at your stitch, you have like when you're going to pick up a stitch, normally you would like pick up through a stitch like there, and you'll see that you have 2 legs on a stitch. So what I ended up doing was I would just pick up for every stitch that I was using to pick up, I would pick up in the front and the back to double it. So I ended up doing that for the stitch count required. I did not hit the exact amount because I think when I picked up here on these seams, I might have gone over too far. So I was supposed to have a certain amount here, and I was like a few stitches short, but it doesn't matter because it looks great. And then when you're doing double knit, so the way the double knit works is you are knitting, um, you knit 1 stitch and then you bring your yarn to the front and you slip it purlwise, and then you bring it back and you knit and then you slip and then you knit and you slip. So you're only really knitting half of your stitches, and then when you work on the reverse side, you're knitting the other half as you repeat it the exact same way. So to get the right height on my buttonhole, I ended up working double the amount of rows to do this. So, for example, I was supposed to bind off for the buttonhole on row 4. Well, row 4 was down here on like my second stitch. So I did end up going about 8 rows before binding off, and then adding my stitches back. This part's a little bit sloppy. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it was, again, just a little bit weird. When it came to picking up these stitches, I did the cable cast on method that she suggests in the pattern. And then I essentially knit front to back, but I kind of purled and knit because I was doing the rib, which is why it looks a little bit funky here. I'm hoping that will fix in blocking. I think it can. It looks like it should, but we'll see. A lot of this is going to come down to blocking, I think. But it does give the effect that I really like. It is very chunky, which I like. It's a very sturdy and solid looking collar, which I really wanted. So all in all, I am very, very happy with how that came out. So I will check in again after I finish the first sleeve, probably. So I'll see you in a bit. Oh, hello there. What's this? Just one sleeve that took me 9 days to make because I've been incredibly unmotivated. Yep, that's it. Yeah, honestly, I really was quite unmotivated to work on this for the past week. Um, Basically, the pattern gives you the option to make either a puff sleeve or a tapered sleeve. And I've only ever made tapered sleeves. So I'm like, okay, well, let me give it a shot. Let me try this puff sleeve. It's very cute. And like halfway through, I was not feeling it. I considered unraveling it and turning it into a tapered sleeve. But I told myself, if I don't like it, I can always undo it. It's just work. It's part of the process. Let me see it through. And then I put it on for the first time just a moment ago after finishing the cuff, and I really love it. I think the puff is very whimsical. I think it is very cute, very flousy. Um, yeah, I think the length pre-blocking is perfect. There is definitely plenty of room to stretch that will happen once the blocking occurs. Um, and yeah, I think that this is so stinking cute still. So I'm now going to cast on and start sleeve number 2. Probably see it in a week with that check-in eventually. So yeah, I will work on the second sleeve, and then I will show it to you once both sleeves are done, pre-blocked, and then I will do the final reveal. If you're thinking, wow, she looks entirely different from the reveal footage we just watched, she must have forgotten to film an outro. No, it's currently 90 degrees, and I was wearing a sweater in humidity and 90 degrees. I was dripping. So I had to change into something a little bit more appropriate for the weather. But that being said, that is the result of the Maple Meadow cardigan. I am super in love with how it came out. I'm very sad I cannot wear it for the next probably like 4 months because of where I live, but that's okay. I'll be able to use it a lot as we get into cooler weather after summer. Um, Final thoughts on the project. I don't know if it's because of my incorrect bind off. I don't think it is, or just placement of the buttons, but the button band is just a little bit wonky, and I don't know how to fix that. I did when I blocked it straight. So it's fine. And it's not like it's too tight on me. So it's not like the curves of my body are making it so that it's misshapen. It is just naturally falling in a curve. So if you have any tips on how to fix that, please let me know because I'd love to know. And then the only other complaint I have is just my poor button sewing skills in general because the top button is already coming loose. So I will have to fix that before I wear it later this year. But otherwise, I think the sweater is absolutely beautiful. Very, very pleased with the final results. So I cannot wait to actually get to wear it. First time using drops yarn. No real complaints from it. As far as working with it, I guess I won't really know how it holds up wear wise until I get to wear it. So I don't know if it's going to pill or anything, but when I do get to wear it, I will keep you informed. And then that's it. That's really it for this video. So thank you so much for watching. If you stayed to the end, I do appreciate it. If you feel like sticking around and you want to watch me do something a little bit more weather appropriate in my next video, I do already have a couple of things on the needles getting ready to go for that video because this has taken me a while to finish and I got a little bored. So a couple things already in the works, more weather appropriate summer wear. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.